welcome to the official first session of the Brighteye Edtech Startup Festival 2024. Thanks for joining. Some of you, as you've heard, have already joined us for a pre-session on the Brighteye thesis moving forward, and know quite a lot now on our fund and how we're thinking. For those who just joined, it's great to see you. My name is Hege, and I'm head of community at Brighteye, where I work spending my time working with the portfolio companies and the wider EdTech ecosystem, including events like this. If you're new to Brighteye, we are the most active early-stage EdTech-focused venture capital fund in Europe with 150 million euros under management across 2 funds. We invest in seed and Series A across Europe in companies that help people learn and grow. This is the 3rd time we're hosting the Brighteye EdTech Startup Festival, and I'm excited to have got it all started. Our first session is focusing on green skills opportunities in EdTech, and it is with great pleasure I introduce Jean-Christophe Girondin, founder and CEO of Agroleague, Gunnar, Windsand, co-founder at Proptly, and Benoit, Wirz, our founding partner at Brighteye. So I'll give you the floor.
Great, thanks Hege, and thanks Jussi and Gunnar for being here. I think the idea today is really to just give people an idea of what you're building and why, and what you see coming down the road. And so if you guys can both, is Jussi still here? I think, oh yeah, there he is, sorry, there you guys are now. Sorry, you changed positions, awesome, you're bigger now. Is to give both you guys the chance to introduce yourselves first. So why don't we start with Jussi, if you could just talk more about Agroleague and what the specific problem is that you're looking to solve, and then we'll do the same for Gunnar.
Sure. First of all, thank you for organizing the session. Can you hear me well, actually?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Amazing. So Brighteye is supporting us for now like a few years, and so like we're happy to be here. And so I'm Jean-Christophe. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Agroleague. And so we've created this digital co-pilot for farmers and food companies like Danone. And so we help them improve agricultural practices, that are supporting farmers. On the one side, farmers' profitability, and also that is helping food companies to meet their sustainability goals, if I may say so. And so, we're today really proud to be working with over 3,000 farmers across 3 different countries, making us one of the most largest farming community in Europe. And yeah, happy to answer all your questions, Ben. And yeah.
Great, thanks. What about you, Gunnar? Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Hi, everyone. My name is Gunnar. I'm co-founder of Proptly. It's really great to be here to discuss green skills opportunities, because that's also very central to what we're solving at Proptly. And just to try to give you all an example and an image of what we're doing. Imagine great companies like Tesla, Bosch, Siemens, who are leading the way in creating renewable hardware such as EV chargers, solar panels, heat pumps, etc. They're having huge issues with managing their installer base, lacking labor, and also having insufficient processes of managing the whole installation process and the customer journey. And this is essentially where Proptly comes in. We've built a software platform that bridges the gap between the OEMs, or the sellers of renewable hardware, and skilled installers, ensuring that sort of their cutting-edge products are deployed seamlessly and at scale. And of course, this is not only relevant, it's urgent, because we need 2 billion climate tech installations by 2030, and we're spending $3 trillion on green capex every single year. And so the demand is there, the investment is there, but we must accelerate the deployment of all of these great products for us to reach the net zero goals that we've set out. So I guess that's sort of the problem we're trying to solve in all essence.
Great. Yeah, and for those of you who were in the previous session, I mean, that's really pure kind of placement solution. Yeah, you're trying to really tackle the problem of the bottleneck in terms of labor demand in the sector, which is great. Awesome. So I'm going to turn this over. I find panels more helpful actually if we do a deep dive with each panelist first, and then we kind of have more group questions in the end. So I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive with Jussi first, and talk about what's happening in the farming sector, and then we'll do the same with Proptly, and then at the end we'll have some more joint questions. So, so did you say you're operating in industry farming where people might think about innovation coming more from improving machinery or genetically modified crops rather than training and enhancing the farmers themselves? Can you share a bit more about the kind of core benefits that Agroleague provides to farmers and the evolution of the product?
First of all, yeah, I mean, I can answer that question, but like first, I think it's interesting to understand like where I come from. I mean, and the story behind actually Agroleague to really understand like what we're building. And so, luckily it doesn't show much, but I eat a lot and I love eating. And while buying like a lot of food, I also want to make sure that at the end of the day, farmers make a decent living while caring for our planet when producing food. And so, I found myself asking the question, are the food choices that I was making really helping farmers, the planet, and my health? And so, it's a very hard question to actually answer. And so, I don't know, Ben, if you have the answer to that question. But when I started Agroleague and this journey, 7 years ago, I didn't have the answer to that question. And so, to answer that, I decided to work on farms and see the challenges that farmers were facing on a daily basis. And that journey actually led me to create Agroleague. And I discovered that if we want to keep feeding the world sustainably, we needed to rethink the way we grow food. And so now with climate change, farming is becoming increasingly complex, and especially with the challenges of climate change, as I was mentioning. And so, balancing actually profitability for farmers with positive environmental impact often feels for farmers and food companies an impossible task to do. And as you, I think you know some farmers, Ben, and so like they typically operate alone, juggling everything from selling crops, accounting, repairing equipment, managing livestock. And I mean, it's really tough to be an expert in every aspect of the farm. And that's why we've created this digital copilot and this digital space where actually farmers, agricultural scientists, and industry partners could collaborate effectively together. And we ended up building this a platform that are we're helping farmers to take better sustainable decisions. And this is where we're coming from.
Got it. And I mean, that's really helpful. So I think the idea of a digital co-pilot for farmers is really appealing. Having been there earlier in the journey, I think a lot of what you had initially was a community of farmers with kind of questions and answers for the farmers, and then over time you layered in additional kind of functionality to help them to help it become a much more sort of comprehensive tool for them. And so, can you talk a little bit more about kind of how that where you started and where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I was mentioning, like I started the journey by actually working with farmers on the fields, and so, I met like I don't know in a year like dozens of farmers, and I work with them actually. And I discovered like they all have some solutions, but they don't like there were no like community to help them like share good farming practices. So we built that, and this is where we started. Actually, what was interesting is like we started the community to really understand their pain and to help them like share good farming practices, and then we build a product on top of the community. And I think this is like a very interesting approach because it helped us to really understand like farmers' pain. And as I was mentioning, it's very, very complex. And so by actually like building this community, talking with them every day, this is how I think we're succeeding in building one of the most engaging product in agtech right now.
Got
And
it.
something
And then,
also been like I'm really proud of. I was talking to I mean during the summer I made some like interviews with farmers. I went to see them on their farm, and I realized that like I did this I mean I checked the P&L and I work with them on that, and like I realized that some of our farmers earn up to 50,000 euros thanks to Agroleague, and this is something I'm really, really proud of.
yeah, I know that's the ROI. I think for on learning is always hard to measure, and when you can measure it in dollars like that, it's obviously quite powerful. And so no, that's really helpful. I think just one more subject to touch on before we do a deeper dive with Gunnar, but the what's interesting to me is that having established a really powerful learning community and then kind of a co-pilot tool for farmers, you're able then now to approach agribusiness and say, hey, this tool is working for individual farmers. Can we partner with you to kind of make it work on a larger scale? And so can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, as farmers use our platform on a daily basis, I mean, we collect really valuable data on everything from, what are their farm practices, crop performance, environmental impact. And so, this data is really gold mine for food companies. And so, for example, by to take like a concrete example, like by actually looking at the real efforts farmers are making to reduce, for example, like carbon emissions, a company can easily track if its farmers, are helping to achieve, the company's goal, for example, of cutting emission by, 30%. And if they spot farms with higher than expected emission, for example, they can step in and we help them step in and, do some, like, for example, training programs and support them, but with a very personalized, approach. And I think this is helping actually both farmers and food industry. Instead of like the food industry just saying to farmers, hey, you should do that, but this is not, applicable and it's not relevant. I think this is really important and it's a very positive change in the industry.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, we'll talk a bit more about it, but I want to give Gunnar a chance also to share more about what he's doing at Proptly. So you're operating in the clean. Sorry, I should move this so it looks like I'm talking to you when I'm reading. So you're operating in the clean energy space, where labor markets, as we talked about before, are incredibly tight and can act as a real barrier for deployment of charging stations, heat pumps, other equipment. And so, can you share kind of what was the key insight that spurred your unique approach to solving the problem? And then, and then we'll talk more about how your product has evolved. But yeah, I would love to hear, because I think the way you're approaching the problems through OEMs is quite different than what other people are doing.
Yeah, no, I think first of all, I think I also want to go a bit personal initially so people understand where I come from. So like I'm raised and grown up on the west coast of Norway, a city called Stavanger. It's famous for two things, rain and oil and gas. So we're considered like the oil and gas capital of Norway. And of course, that's not that cool to be anymore. So we're running the biggest marketing scheme there is to say that we now the energy capital. The positive outcome of that is that there's been invested a lot of money into creating great companies within sort of the renewable manufacturing space. And I've grown up seeing a lot of these come to fruition. And also having worked sort of in consultancy within the renewable sector and with the OEMs, we learned that these companies are struggling badly with operations working with installers, both with the access of installers and also how can we ensure that they're delivering towards our customers. And an example of this is the biggest EV home charging manufacturer company called Easy, which is using Proptly as of today, or using our platform today. They are operating across 21 markets. So how do you, in a lean way, ensure that the installers are delivering your products towards your end customers sufficiently? And how do you ensure that we have sufficient coverage of installers at all? A lot of these companies, they've tried to sort of build ways or build their own platforms of working with installers, but they've been struggling because they've done one thing really poorly, and that's understanding the installers, like creating incentives for them to actually install their products. And having worked with the industry, I thought, okay, this is a huge opportunity space. Let's try to work closely with installers. So me and two of my co-founders, which one of them is a former CEO of an installer company himself, sort of started building from the installer side instead of focusing on the OEM companies. So what we managed to do was essentially work with installers to make sure that, okay, when we get jobs from third-party providers like the OEMs, we will then be able to deliver that sufficiently toward the end customers. And then when we also built the element of connecting the OEM companies to the platform, we just had a funnel of jobs coming to the installers. And suddenly they had a clear incentive to learn to install the EV chargers, to learn to install the solar panels, to learn to install the heat pumps. And that has seen us have a significant rise in sort of also number of installer companies on the platform. So whilst traditionally it's been seen, or people think that selling software to installer companies is very hard and not scalable. We had 550 installer companies on our platform in Norway within 5 months, delivering on behalf of all of these OEMs in Norway. And now, of course, we've grown into Europe, in Germany, UK, and other markets as well. So for us, it was all about putting the installers in the centrum of that value chain, focus on them, make sure that they can deliver on behalf of multiple OEMs at the same time. And by then also ensuring that the OEM companies like EC, like Tesla, like Siemens, like Bosch, they can have a scalable way of working with installer companies. And also when it comes to the ROI of this, is pretty clear. So Future Home, another player that uses our platform delivering EV chargers and smart home, they had 6 people sitting every day calling the installers companies to provide them jobs via email and trying to make sure that they deliver towards the customers. But now by using Proptly, they have one person who sits like 50% of his time in the platform monitoring all of these jobs. They're being sent to the installers and have real-time data that the installers are communicating sufficiently with with the customer. And also we are also very data heavy, so we focus on matching the right installer companies with the ECs, with the Teslas, so that they can have the right data points. Kind of like Uber, trying to find the best installer company for the job based on location and other metrics.
That's really cool. So when you mentioned the customer service, sort of reducing the number of customer service for one of your customers, obviously that's a trend that we see across. I mean, Florida announced that they reduced their customer service department by 700 people, but I think automation really, one of the benefits is just removing a lot of the friction between a customer and an operator. And so just so I get a sense, is it the case that installers are also able to increase their productivity because of so talk more about what it means from the installer side.
Yeah, no, obviously. So the installers who are on the platform, they get access to work with new products to sell them. They also have the opportunity to sort of spend less time on administrative burdens like doing sales. Like installers, most of you people here have in this virtual room has probably worked with an electrician or a contractor in your life, in your home, right? And these people are amazing at installing these products, but they're not always the best at communicating or ensuring that you have transparency in the process, etc. So the more we can help them sort of digitize and automate that process for them, the more time they can spend traveling around installing all of these EV chargers, solar panels, etc., that we know that we as a society need. So we're providing them with more business. And I think like a relevant comparison here is like you, Ben, right? You're spending your days trying to forecast returns on investments as an investor in startups. Like that's your job. But if you suddenly were told also tomorrow that, you need to now start to calculate quantum physics, that would have been a challenge. And it's the same way with installers, right? They have to learn new products every single day. And the best way for them to learn this is to have that clear incentive by providing them with actual business and revenue. And that's kind of the way we've chosen to approach this problem.
Yeah, no, and one of the sort of revelations for me when Brighteye started to look more closely at the climate space has been the fact that actually the skills, the kind of green skills that are needed, are not that different from the old skills, right? That were needed, and so an electrician is an electrician, and so giving them, to your point, giving them the incentive to develop green skills is a lot of it is just a matter of finding the workflow, right? Finding the work stream and pointing that in their direction. Yeah.
Yeah, and can I also add this last element? I think is really important for the installer companies that we focused a lot on, because imagine if you're a company and you're trying to provide installations or whatever it is on behalf of 20, 30 different players. And these 20 different players have 20 different approaches to sending you jobs. So you might have one platform with Tesla, and then you have you get the jobs in email by Siemens. It creates a lot of silos where it's really hard to manage for a small organization. And that was something we focused a lot on initially, working with, of course, our co-founder, who was a former CEO of an installer company, and installers themselves. Like, how can we break up these silos to ensure that you can, from one central point, manage all of these jobs that come on behalf of all of these 20 companies. So, and the cool thing is that we've seen that the installer companies are actually starting to use the platform not only for on behalf of third-party partners, but they're also starting to use it now on their own customers, because they see that, well, actually, this is a way better way for our customers to experience getting installed these products and deliver these services. So that's also been really encouraging and cool to see as well.
Great. Okay. I have a few more questions for both you guys, but I just want to give the audience a heads up that if you guys have questions, you can pop them in the chat at any time, and we'll leave some space at the end. So, venture capital is a business of the future, and so we're always asking people what's going to happen next. And I guess, Gisè, I mean, you talked a bit about kind of the demand from bigger agribusinesses and the way the need for them to meet climate goals. But I mean, what are the kind of key changes that you see in your industry, or in terms of A, what's the change, and B, what do you think the product needs to do now in order to meet that, or what do you think the product needs to do that it doesn't do now in order to kind of meet that change? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say on the industry side, if you are a food company now and you don't have like a climate smart program, for example, I think you're falling behind in today's market. I think like McCain, want to implement regenerative agriculture across 100% of their potato acreage worldwide. This is one. Walmart is doing it. They invested in like 15 million hectares of land. PepsiCo is doing it. Cargill is doing it. Nestle is doing it. I mean, like, I think regenerative farming and climate smart farming is becoming the norm. And so this is like a first change. On the other side, I mean, on the farmer side, I would say, what I see, and this is, I think this will surprise you, Ben, but like, I've noticed that farmers are becoming much more focused on return on investments. And, it wasn't the case before. I think they were like, selling our product was more like an emotional selling that a very pragmatic one. And I think it's changing, so now they want return on investment. Every cent now needs to show a positive return. And I think it wasn't the case before. And I think this is actually a good shift because, in the past, many purchases were made out of tradition, for example, rather than, with an eye on the farm's bottom line. So I think this is very positive. I mean, it started to change. This is good. And I think on the product question, I think I mean, there are like two different answers. So the first one is, on the bottom line, we stand at the crossroads between farmers and food companies, and our job is really to solve both of their problems, even when their interests don't fully align, because it's the case sometimes, And so we are here to keep building that alignment so both sides benefit from the transition. And this is the very important core to our mission. And I also want to talk a bit about, return on investment on regenerative agriculture programs that food companies actually launched. I think, like, I know some food companies that decided to invest hundreds of millions on regenerative agriculture programs. And, we are doing everything that we can through data to help them improve the return investment on this program because they don't really know farming well, and they need to have a scalable solution while the solution, I mean, needs to also to be very local because each farm is different. I think like they can spend like millions without having a real impact. And I think like this is one of our focus to really help them to assess the impact and improve return on investment. And we can also like, I know you like AI, Ben, and we can also like talk a bit about artificial intelligence. I don't know if your question will come or if you want me to answer it now.
Well, let's save artificial intelligence for the end, because I try to avoid having that phrase too early in the conversation. Otherwise, everybody goes to sleep. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. I think. But the but yeah, no, I mean that's interesting to hear. I mean, I think the idea that the thing that the wind at your back is that big companies are increasingly needing to track this, and farmers are increasingly convinced of and willing to invest in things that have a positive return is really encouraging. I think generally speaking, climate solutions take off when there is a positive economic return, no matter what. Right? That's what's made solar and EVs and a lot of these things go from early adopters to the mainstream.
Definitely. And what I like to say is, farmers don't run NGOs. They run companies, and so they need to make a living out of what they're doing. And so I think combining environmental impact with positive financial returns is, fundamental.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gunnar, what about you? What is the future? What does the next 12 to 24 months look like, and where do you think your product needs to be in order to adapt?
Yeah, I think we need to have two things in mind looking at that. So the first thing is, of course, the OEMs and sort of their market situation, and then, of course, the installer companies who are delivering on their behalf. So if you start by the OEMs, what we're seeing right now is that I don't know, Ben, do you want to guess how many manufacturers of, for example, EV charging there is in Europe?
Oh, I no, I'm just gonna look stupid, so I'm not gonna guess. But yeah.
More than 50.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Exactly, right? So the market is getting more and more saturated. And
Okay.
traditionally, the manufacturers they've had a very clear sort of sales strategy, which has been selling through distribution channels, so the wholesalers, etc. But if you're trying to penetrate the market as a new player, as well, with a better solution than everyone else, then it's really hard to go with the same strategy. So what we're seeing is that the OEMs are trying, one, to win the attention of the installers. How can we succeed by being the prioritized product by the installer companies? And secondly, how can we win the attention of the end customer, the homeowners or the business customers who need an EV charger in their home or in the building? And that's essentially the conclusion has been that they're trying to put way more money into, for example, marketing towards the end customers, because then you're promoting your product. And that's great for us because then essentially what you have to do is you have to ensure that once you have an interest from a potential customer, you need to funnel that to the installer company that are located close to the customer. So there we're seeing much more focusing on the end customer than we've seen traditionally. For the installer companies, of course, this is a traditional industry, and not everyone is going to change overnight. So you have to look at it on a distribution level. Like you have the early adopters, you have the ones who will come once their business there, and then you have those who will never change. And this is essentially a data game, right? So once you have catched as many of these players into an ecosystem, into a platform, we gather a lot of data on these installer companies, and we're using that data to match that with the OEM so that the OEM companies are aware of who are the ones we should work with, who are the ones who are willing to change, willing to learn the new skills required to install these products. So by enabling the OEMs to feel that they have control over the order to installation, and also to ensure that the installer companies who are willing to change, willing to learn these new skills are matched together, then essentially we're gonna win, we believe. And that's what we're seeing the early signs of as well, given sort of the huge networks effects that are in play, and what a single player in a market can mean. For example, we closed $10 billion SunGrow now in Germany, and they gave us only access to 1,000 installer companies in Germany, and that's very attractive to other OEMs, to say the least. So yeah, we just need to
Yeah.
network effects more and more.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to hear. I had no idea how competitive the charging market is, and obviously, I mean, there probably aren't 50 different sort of niches in the, you know what I mean? Like you just have to compete for customers' attention in a more direct fashion, and so yeah, kind of building that into the product on the one hand, and then yeah, as you say, as you guys add more installers and more manufacturers, the kind of the virtues of the product increase, and that's the benefit of marketplaces. So that's really interesting. The same for for Agroleague for that matter. I mean, as you guys add more farmers, the value for agribusiness grows, and so that's quite interesting. All right, so we're going to talk about AI, and then I'm going to throw it open to the audience, obviously automation, a huge impact on labor markets. Generally, we talked about that in the last session. Overall, our view is that it increases opportunities or increases productivity, and therefore increases, honestly, demand for labor. But they're all different specific flavors of that when you get to actually different sectors. And so we'd love to hear how AI is sort of impacting your sort of view of the future and your current product. And we can take it from there. I guess, Gunnar, let's start with you, since I always start with Giselle, just to keep it interesting, and then we'll go back to Giselle.
Yeah, no, of course, that's always a big topic. Having sort of worked in data science myself, you become immediately a little bit wary, to push all of these crazy use cases, and especially in the startup ecosystem, you see startups mentioning that they're using AI 2 months after launching their product, which always impresses me. But no, there are a lot of use cases that I think is going to sort of help this space in the future. Like we mentioned, installer companies, for example, not necessarily being the best at managing you, the homeowner, you, the customer. And it's not what they like to do, right? So how can we help them become better in that, also ensuring that the OEMs feel comfortable that these are great? And we are actually exploring a few use cases for LLMs in sort of the chat between the installer companies and the end customers, to sort of help them to write better, because they're on the road all the time. The writing is not the best. There are some typos and etc. And yeah, to make them more customer centric is definitely going to be helpful. Also, what we're doing essentially through our platform is gathering a lot of pricing data. So we get the pricing of every single product that's installed in the platform, and it also touches a bit upon our business model as well. As I can see, Lucian is asking about that, but essentially we charge a fixed fee every single installation through our platform. But through these pricing data that we're gathering, we're also exploring and playing around with building more pricing models for the OEMs to understand where should we price our products, because they're competing against 49 others who are providing pretty similar product, as you mentioned, Ben. So to have sort of forecasting models, etc., to be able to predict these prices better is going to be hugely important. And maybe a last thing that's going to be really important is the training part. So if I want to become a installer of EC, I need to somehow understand the basics of what it requires to install an EC charger, or a Tesla, or a Siemens, and a Bosch. And all of these companies, they have their, again, silos where you can read up on the product manuals and stuff like that. So what we're enabling these OEMs to do is to add more of these product instruction, product modules into our platform. And we're exploring, again, how we can use LLMs to extract a lot of that information and ensure that installers who receive jobs from new companies can faster understand how I can install this product at the new customer the first time you receive it, because there we have a long way to go to save the installers time in getting familiar with new products and again training them.
Okay. No, that I mean, essentially what you're describing is it kind of matches what we're seeing, which is installation itself. There's not much AI can do, right, at this stage to improve the actual installation process. Although honestly, I think in the medium to longer term, there probably will be improvements. But for the foreseeable future, a lot of the optimization happens around everything before and after the installation process, basically. I think that's quite different, honestly, in farming, where automation is actually impacting to some degree the activity itself. Yeah, or at least mechanization has impacted the activity itself. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. Would love to hear more, as you say, about how you see AI impacting your product and your customer. Oh wait, so I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, you know, I hold back from mentioning artificial intelligence to farmers to avoid them churning immediately. Farming is very risky, and they don't feel like using an AI to take decisions. But it's a really helpful tool for agricultural scientists. As I was mentioning actually earlier, like one of our revenue in the chat. So one of our revenue stream is this agronomy as a service solution, where we basically connect farmers and agricultural scientists. And so, we've built like a whole product for agricultural scientists. So we are answering like more than 200 questions per week to help farmers on their daily decisions. And so, these questions that are asked by farmers are being answered by agricultural scientists, and we're actually using AI to help these agricultural scientists to answer questions, and it helped us to divide the cost by 2.5, something like that. So it's a really helpful tool, and like the more data we have high quality data because like agricultural scientists like really like build like good quality content, and like the questions farmers ask are very relevant and help us know what are the challenges that they have. And so like all of these data helping us to improve our AI. And so this is a first use, so helping agricultural scientists to actually reduce cost by using artificial intelligence. So it's really an assistant for agricultural scientists. And so the second use case is pushing content directly to farmers based on the specific challenges that we've seen around. And yeah, these are the two use cases that I'm seeing. But also, like, just I want to mention something very important. In agriculture, I think we already faced challenges with data collections before we can even like talk about using that data to build to build an AI. And so I think what we have cracked is actually like collecting this data at scale that is helping us to one assist the agronomist, and second indirectly assist the farmers in their daily operations. I don't know if I was clear, Ben.
I think so. I think so. I think I totally get the idea that look, everything's artificial intelligence is great, but in order for artificial intelligence to work, you need data. You need data in order to pull from, and a big challenge historically has been just getting that data from farmers. Even if what you're trying to do ultimately is help them, right? And so because collecting that data for an individual farmer just doesn't move the needle that much. You need it's a sort of a collective action problem. So the way that the part that I'm just a little bit less clear on is in terms of the way that AI is helping the agronomists that you work with. How does that work exactly? Like, what is it that's
like on the product? So farmers ask questions directly to agronomists. So agronomists or agricultural scientists, like some people doesn't know what an agronomist is, so that's why I'm using the term agricultural scientist, so it's a bit more straightforward. But let's say agronomist, so farmers ask questions on the product directly to agronomists, and so agronomists have a product with like data on the farms, soil analysis, etc. And so the agronomist is actually answering questions. So it's like a chat, and we are using AI to actually pre-fill the answer for the agronomist so that it's easier to answer the question.
That's cool. Okay, yeah. So it's essentially a well-informed chatbot for farmers based on kind of all the information you've provided in the past, which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's super interesting. I do want to dive into the ROI question that a bit as was asked, but before we do that, well, actually, I'm just going to pause and say I have one more sort of prepared question. If folks in the chat have other questions, now is the time to sort of put them. I have the chat open in front of me, so we can make people answer a bit, and then I have one wrap up question, but otherwise we'll sort of move to that. So now's your chance. Yeah. So I mean, ROI. I think ROI is in EdTech in particular is always something that people focus on. I think theoretically you could charge any number of prices for a particular product. Being able to quantify the benefit to your customers is key to both pricing and honestly selling the product. So when you think about when you think about the ROI for farmers and for sort of agribusiness, I understand the general value proposition, but do you have a sort of equation that you use, or do you have a KPI that you're kind of sort of focused on in terms of making sure that both sides of the product are happy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the you hear me? Yeah. One of the hardest part about what we've built, I think, is assessing the impact of our product. And I think what we've cracked is also engaging farmers on a digital product, and we spend some time on finding ways to really assess the impact to actually improve what we're doing. And so one of the way that we've decided to choose to measure impact is first of all a net promoter score. And we've increased it over time. I mean, today I think we're one of the world-class NPS score in the industry, because as you know, it's really hard to engage farmers on a tech and digital product. And 1 out of 3 farmers are using our product on a daily basis. So this is really good. And yeah, I mean, this is for product engagement and product satisfaction. And also one of our challenge was to know how we are moving, how we are helping farmers earn more at the end of the day, because as I was mentioning, the bottom line, farmers don't run NGOs, they run companies, and they need to make money. And so the first thing is we help them we help them better produce, so meaning we help them reduce cost on fertilizers, chemicals, and the use of input, generally speaking. So this is the first thing. The second thing is we also help them on to help them buying in a way, because we connect farmers with each other on these group buying features where they can connect with other provider, input suppliers, sorry, and reduce cost because they buy together, so it's actually becoming cheaper to buy. And yeah, these are the two way for us to actually improve farmers' margin. So the first thing is net promoter score and product engagement. The second thing is with some features that we have, assessing return on investment based on what we say to the farmers and the question he asked.
Got it. Okay. What about you, Gunnar? How do you think about ROI for your customers?
Yeah, no, it's twofold, and let's okay, we can dummy it a bit down. So if you break down the simple equation of profitability, then you have, of course, revenues and you have costs. So let's start with the revenue side, and I can use a real example. So in Norway, you have 6 providers of EV charger, for example. Let's stick to EV chargers, and you have 2 really big ones, and then you have 3 who are a bit different sizes. Futurehome is one of them. They're a challenger. They were the smallest once they went to us. They had pretty much 40% lower marketing budget than every competitor in the space. But by the fact that they could communicate their value proposition and funnel leads directly to the installers, they had 2 times the sales as some of their competitors, not the 2 biggest ones, but they went from 6th to 3rd in a year, which was really cool to see. So that sort of enabled them to deploy different sales tactics in a market where we're seeing this is changing now, and a lot of these other players are following suit, as I mentioned with Easy and the others. On the cost perspective, we can use a more fictitious example. So Ben, you are a naive entrepreneur. You've just developed your great EV charger again. You believe that the 51 EV charger is going to be different to the 50, but maybe it's also a little bit better. Who knows? You're probably a small organization at this stage, so but you're aggressive. So you want to deploy into several markets. But with say you're not that many employees, how can you be able to recruit installers in all of the markets that you want to succeed in? So you have UK, France, Germany, etc. Do you need to hire people and have boots on the ground in every single country trying to build relationship with installers? Or should you use a platform where you can find the installers already, where you have data on the installers that they have delivered installation of EV chargers, where you have data on the fact that they're actually capable of learning new products and can start to scale that straight away. And maybe you can even have a single person doing that from your headquarters in UK. So that's pretty much how we're providing the ROI, and sort of the sales process that we're operating with is that we're creating a what we call decision document, trying to understand a bit more of like how many order volumes do you have through your platform, or how many sales do you have today, how many people do you have managed the process of scaling your business, and then we just provide a simple equation to this. So yeah, I think that's been quite effective on our side at least.
Got it. Okay, no, that's straightforward. Yes, and I would choose option B for the record. I think that's, but yeah, I think okay, no, that's great. Look, I think we're down on time. I think the last question I'm going to ask you guys is just around the hard stuff. I think there's a lot of glamorization of entrepreneurship. My view of it, having spent 10 years in it before heading on the investment side, is that it is a lot of hard work and stress, punctuated by moments of ecstasy, which are rarer than you think when you start. So I just want to talk about how what the hardest part has been so far, and what you expect to be the hardest part in the next 12 months. Gunnar, since we were just talking, why don't we start with you? Like, what has been the key challenge you've had to overcome to date, and what do you see as the key challenge going forward?
Yeah, so by far the biggest challenge we've had is that we're touching upon so many verticals. You have to build a platform that sort of maintains the interest of the OEMs, the installer companies, and also the end customer who are experienced getting these installations. And on every single installation, of course, the end customer providing a customer satisfaction score. So that's critical to ensure that, it's actually a great customer journey. And we're very proud of the fact that we've had a CSAT of 9.34 out of 10 possible on every single installation that's been conducted through all product categories in the platform. So that's been really cool. But it's a big platform. You need to sort of serve all of these players and listen to different stakeholders and different interests. And I think my co-founder Christopher, our chief product officer, he's had a struggle trying to balance priorities in terms of product roadmap. So that's been the biggest challenge so far. I think the biggest challenge going forward is since in many ways we're building a B2B closed marketplace for the OEMs and installer companies, is to ensure that we always have supply to serve the demand in the markets. A huge part of the value proposition for the naive Bens out there who are one of scaling their business is to have installers on the platform in relevant markets. So to sort of have that in place in the platform is going to be key for us going forward. And yeah, we're focusing a lot on that, both on a sort of strategic and operational level right now.
Got it. Yeah, no, ensuring liquidity in any marketplace is obviously key. So that makes a ton of sense. What about you, Gise? What has been the most difficult part previously, and what do you think will be hardest going forward?
I'm muted again. Okay. I think I talked about it before, but I think engaging farmers with a digital product have been one of the hardest parts. And so, today we have a world-class NPS score, and 1 in 3 farmers uses our product daily. So this is something that we've did quite well, actually. Even though we did ton of mistakes, but this part is good. And the hardest part in the future, I would say that conversion rates on the farmer side remains a challenge. French, at least on the French market, French wheat harvest, have been the lowest in 40 years due to climate change. So it's actually an opportunity because more and more food companies, as I was mentioning, will launch climate smart program not to in order to maintain their supply. But on the farmer side, input prices remain high, and of course this will naturally affected our business. but you know, the team is more committed than ever to helping farmers combat climate change and make a living out of farming, and I think this is very important. And also, you know, I was speaking with a farmer earlier, and he mentioned that, you know, the Agroleague app has become such a part of his daily routine, so that he now opens it every time he walks through the bathroom door. So, you know, this is you know, something I'm really proud of also, and I'm also proud of finishing this talk on the 2 words bathroom door, which is, I think, performance.
Great. Yeah, that's how we like to end all our talks, dude. Appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for everyone who's participated on the chat. This will be recorded, and this has been recorded, and we'll send out a summary, and I'll hand it back over to Hege.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Gunnar, and thanks, Ben, of course. Loads to learn for me, at least, in there. So thank you very much. That ends the first official session of the Brighteye Edtech Startup Week festival, actually. Next session is already this afternoon at 3 o'clock UK time, so 4 Europe time. And it's on AI in schools, at work, and in the home. So hopefully see loads of you there. It's on the same link, so if you haven't registered, you can jump on the same one, or you can still register. So thanks for now, and see you all later.
Bye, everyone. Take care.